This week's parsha is Parshat Vayechi, and I heard this Torah from Rav Bernstein in his 2014 shiur online. Now, Rav Bernstein focuses right at the beginning of the parsha. We have, Yaakov has been in Egypt for 17 years. He calls Yosef to him, and Yosef comes, and he asks for a particular request. And he says, "Please do not bury me in Egypt." And Yosef says, "Okay." And then Yaakov says, "Swear to me that you'll do this." And Yosef swears. And then Yaakov bows to Yosef. Now that's very interesting. What is Yaakov doing bowing to his son? So Rashi is bothered by this, and he answers, Vayishtachu Yisrael, and he says, Ta'ala be'idnei sagidle. A fox in his time bowed to him. And Rashi here is quoting the Gemara in Megillah 16b. And the Gemara there says, this is a common saying, Hainu da'amri inchi, Ta'ala be'idnei sagidle. It's a common saying that a fox in his day bowed to him. Now, what does that mean, and how does that help us? So let's just say that, look, the fox is not the king of the jungle, and everyone knows that, but it's possible for the fox to have his day, and on that day, you should give him some recognition. So fox, when he has his day, bow to him. Now, Yosef here is the fox, right? He is the viceroy of Egypt, right? He's a very powerful person in Egypt. Here's the king, or at least he's very similar to the king, and therefore, Yaakov bows to him, and there we go. Now, that's all well and good. But there is a very similar situation going on in two psukim from now. And what is that? So Yaakov falls ill, and Yosef comes to visit him. And in chapter 48, verse 2, so it says, right? So Yosef is coming towards you. Yisrael, so Yisrael strengthened himself, right? Yaakov strengthened himself and sat up on the bed. So what's behind this? Says Rashi, Yisrael. So Amar, he said, Afal pishehu b'ni melechu. Even though he's my son, right? Yosef is my son, he's a king. Achalek lo kavod. I'll give him kavod. From here we learn that you give kavod to the kingship, to royalty. And then Rashi proceeds to give us some examples. Moshe chala kavod l'malchut, right? So Moshe also gave kavod to royalty. And who's that? That's obviously Paro. Right? That's quoting a verse in Shemot, which is after the Makkah Tachorot. He tells Paro, he's like, look, you and your servants are going to come towards me after this Makkah. Now, Paro's servants aren't going to come to me. Moshe knew that Paro was going to come himself to him, but because of Kavod Malchut, he just said this in a more dignified fashion, so Paro wouldn't feel so undignified. Right? And so too with Eliyahu Hanavi, right? The way he was speaking to Achav. And these are two very interesting royal figures. Paro is Paro, he needs no introduction, and Achav was a very ignoble king of Israel, to put it as euphemistically as I possibly can. Not a good character in Jewish history. But even so, our Nevi'im, Moshe and Eliyahu, they both were cholek kavod l'malchut. So to here, even though it's true, Yosef is Yaakov's son. However, Yaakov needs to give kavod to malchut. Now, what's bothersome about this, each one of these is fine. But our question is, why is Rashi so curt in his first mentioning of this, right? Either Yisrael bowed to him or he strengthened himself. And it seems to be the same idea, but in one, Rashi is explaining this in 4 words. Ta'ala b'idnei sagidle, and that's it. Whereas here, v'chazak Yisrael, there's this whole elaboration. He's the king. I need to give a kavod malchut. This is how we learn that you're supposed to give kavod to malchut. We have all these examples. What's the deal? Why is Rashi so verbose in the second example? What's behind that? This is the question of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And he, by way of explanation, he actually prefaces with another question. What question is that? He says, let's look at our opening situation. So Yosef comes down to Yaakov. Yaakov says, please don't bury me in Egypt. Yosef says, okay. And then Yaakov says, swear me an oath. Now that's very interesting. And Yosef does. But our question is, why is Yaakov making Yosef swear an oath? Normally when a person asks someone to swear an oath to them after they've already said they do it, it's because you're not so sure that they will. For example, if we're going to go to Parshat Tolda, really right at the beginning, right when Esav sells Yaakov the Bechorah, so what happens? So Yaakov says, sell me the Bechorah, and Esav says, fine. Then it says, V'yomer Yaakov, Hishav Ali, Kayom. Right? And Jacob said, swear to me as this day. He swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Now, why did Yaakov do this? Because he's dealing with Esav. Esav is not the most reliable person on the planet, and therefore he needs to get an oath from him. But why is Yaakov asking Yosef to do it? Does he not trust him? That's his question. Now, the Bab Rabbi explains very simply. He says, Yosef is the second in command. He is, in fact, not the king. Paro is the king. And Yaakov knows that for Yosef to fulfill this request to bury Yaakov in Israel is not so simple, for two reasons at least. First, Yaakov is a national treasure in Egypt. Yaakov had only need to set foot in Egypt, and the entire famine stopped. That's not so bad. And so he knew that when Yosef was trying to extract him from Egypt, even to bury him, this is going to be a difficult task. And moreover, we're dealing with Yosef here. Yosef was going to need to ask Paro and effectively get authority to leave Egypt when Yosef has been a boon to Egypt since Paro discovered him. Right? He's the one who told him about this. He interpreted the dreams. He's been storing food for 7 years. He's brought all this wealth into Egypt. And now he's asking permission to go back to Canaan. Remember, Yosef is from Canaan. So maybe there might be a worry that he'll stay there. And truth is, when Yosef does ask Paro to go, Paro says, absolutely, please go. But your kids are staying here. Now, this is a way of almost guaranteeing Yosef will come back because he's kind of holding his kids hostage. Now, of course, Paro, I'm sure, treated them very well. But at the end of the day, they had to stay in Mitzrayim. And there's a reason for that. So the Rebbe says, look, sometimes a person has something that he needs to do. However, there are circumstances that prevail, right? Work, or my family, or my girlfriend, or and these could be legitimate. He really can't do it. He's stuck. However, if the task is important enough, that person will anticipate those circumstances and preempt them and get around them in order to make sure to accomplish the task. He'll create his own set of circumstances to say, I'm sorry, this needs to get done. Now, Yosef will need to use more of his ingenuity and foresight to see where things will fall to make sure that everything falls into place in order to allow himself to bury Yaakov. And the difference between an agreement with a shvuah and an agreement without a shvuah is that once a person has an oath placed over his head, right, it'll never leave his mind. And as a result, he'll keep thinking of how do I solve this issue? Because it's obviously there's a lot more at stake once a person makes a shvuah. And that's why Yaakov asks Yosef for the shvuah. It's not that he doesn't trust Yosef. It's that he knows that Yosef needs to have his wits about him to make this work. And moreover, the Rebbe explains that this is exactly why Yaakov bows to Yosef at this stage. It's not about kavod malchut. It's about making sure that Yosef feels energized and empowered and encouraged to do this. Yaakov bows to him. And to let him know that Yaakov trusts Yosef. He's trying to move Yosef as much as possible in the direction to get this done. And therefore, the Rebbe explains, when Rashi brings these 4 words, it is specifically using the example of the fox, right? Ta'ala be'idne sagidle. A fox on this day, bow to him. The fox is not the king. Yosef is not the king. However, a fox has something that the king may not have. A fox has cunning. And that's what Yosef is that's what Yaakov is alluding here to with regards to Yaakov. Use your cunning. That's what you'll need to do. You'll need to act like a fox. So just make sure to figure that out. And now finally, the Rebbe's final stroke, look at how Rashi quotes this. He says, now again, he's quoting Megillah, and Megillah it says, this is what people say. Now, if Rashi were to introduce this as a common saying, what would that imply? That, look, when a fox is his day, it's about him, and show him some recognition. And that's kind of it. That's where the idea stops. The Rebbe says, Rashi very carefully deletes those words. And the reason why is because he's saying that the idea isn't that it's not just that the fox is not the lion. There's more going on here. Yaakov is trying to imply to Yosef, I want you to act like a fox. I'm not saying this in a common person, in the common way of saying it, but I'm saying it with meaning and with depth. And Rav Bernstein looked this up, and I believe the Lubavitcher Rebbe said it. I did not see this piece inside. But Rav Bernstein proves that, in fact, Rashi, when he uses other of these meimras, other sayings, or these common sayings, he actually introduces it with that dibur matchil, or rather with that inside. Let's look at Chapter 21, verse 21, again in Bereshit, when Ishmael marries a Isha Mitzrayit, Vayechi b'midbar paran v'tikach lo imo Isha me'eretz Mitzrayim. Says Rashi, me'eretz Mitzrayim. So Hainu d'amri inchi zrok chutra la'avir ikra kai. So there you go. So Lubavitch Rebbe is showing that in other areas, when Rashi quotes these Hainu d'amri inchis, he says Hainu d'amri inchi, but that's not the purpose of the Rashi here. Rashi is explicitly omitting it because he's not seeing it as a common saying. He's doing it to allude to the fox. We'll end it there. Shabbat Shalom.